Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Clare with me, Seamus Brady, your host. And for this one, I am joined by a very happy Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman, into another All-Ireland Hurling Final. This weekend review show is coming to you at the slightly later time of 8:30 versus the usual time of 8 p.m. Matthew's been a busy man getting the stats up for all the games, especially with the scoreboard confusion in Kilkenny Tip, which we'll get on to. I needed the extra half hour to cry my eyes out after yesterday's All-Ireland Semi Final loss for Dublin. But Matthew, you're a happy man, I take it?
Yeah, happy no, Seamus. Yeah, thanks for being on. It was a good day yesterday, and unlike the Munster final, yesterday, as when all the 7 goals went in, I ended up with a bit of a hoarse voice at the end of the evening, and it didn't help when I was back home on the bus home at I think it was about 2 a.m. at some stage anyway, and it was just, as soon as I woke up this morning, I was like, oh crap, the Camogie's on 1:30. So I was like, I have to go rush, yeah, But yeah, it was a good day out now yesterday. In fairness, with all the Cork fans kind of see the aerial photographs of Croke Park and even seen the pubs beforehand as well. It was a sea of red, not a Dublin site, but obviously they have only a few minutes to walk, so it isn't too bad for them. But look, it was a good win. Tipperary now in the final should be a very interesting game. I don't think it'll be as comprehensive as it was back in the Munster Championship. And looking forward to a very tasty game with Tipperary. It's shocking to hear actually that this will be the first ever All-Ireland final between Cork and Tipperary. I thought there'd be at least crazy. One or two more, but yeah, it's the first, and definitely looking forward to it in 2 weeks' time. And now the ticket scrap is commencing.
Oh, absolutely. Not just about the tickets for the match, but the tickets for the trains, the buses, everything like that. I'm sure every Cork person is going to want to be up in Dublin for All-Ireland final weekend. Yeah, it's crazy that it's going to be the first All-Ireland final between Cork and Tip, because when you look, especially during the 20th century, around the time that you had the teams of Christy Ring, Johnny Doyle, Jimmy Doyle, everything like that for Tip, you would assume, if you didn't know that the championship structure used to be different, that surely those two teams were in All-Ireland finals. They picked up so many All-Ireland medals, but of course it was straight knockouts. So if you lost a Munster, you were out of the All-Ireland series. So there was no way for them to play each other in an All-Ireland final. Then the structure changed in the late 90s. I think, was it Clare and Tip in 97, Matthew, that was the first All-Ireland final with two teams from the same province, or am I wrong in that? I think it was.
I think it was, yeah.
But anyway, it's crazy that from that point on, we haven't even had a Cork Tip final. I think when you look at it, all right, you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but Cork and Tip have tended to go in two different directions. If Cork are pretty good, Tip have tended to be falling off. If Tip tend to be thriving, Cork tend to be in a bit of a weird spot. You got Cork won in 99, then they weren't on the pace in 2001 when Tip won it. Then Cork came back under Donald O'Grady and John Allen while Tip fell off. Then Tip came back under Liam Sheedy while Cork were going through the strikes and everything like that. And then, Cork revive in the 2020s when Tip had their bad year under Colin Bonner and everything like that. But now we have the two of them at the same pace, at the same level in an All-Ireland final together. And that should be a cracker. We have a couple comments in here, guys. If you are new to the channel, new to the show, the ticker down the bottom there will tell you how we do things here. Throw in your comments. Let us know what your highlights were of the weekend. Peter Griffin and Brian O'Riordan have been leading the way in terms of doing that. Peter says, hurling is such a mad game. Anything can happen in the final. Anything. Cork would be down as faves, but you never know. Brian says the hype train is well and truly rolling now, and with a performance like that in the bag, who on earth can stop Cork? Good question. Liam White, the Faithful Podcast, says Tip Cork final, stuff of nightmares. I know, jokes. Congrats to both. Great match today. And then Sean says this will be the best All-Ireland hurling final ever. Interesting. Peter says logistics battle ahead of the final, planes, trains, tickets, all the whole lot, accommodation as well. That will be another. The hotels will be rolling in the money on that weekend. But yeah, let's dive in with the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship semi-final, which took place today. Tipperary 420, Kilkenny 30 points. That's Tipperary 420, Kilkenny 30 points. Just to be absolutely sure, Matthew, will start right there with the scoreboard malfunction and the confusion that came around it. I have an official statement that was released by the GAA. So the GAA said, The GA can confirm that the official score at the end of Tipperary v Kilkenny in the GA Hurling All-Ireland Senior Championship Semi Final was 420 to 30 points. The GA acknowledges there was confusion over the final score. The CCCC is awaiting the full referee's report in order to establish how the initial mistake occurred. So I'm pretty sure it was that Noel McGrath point, wasn't it? The one where Canning built it up. He's done so much in his career and the ball went wide, but the score went up. And I was sitting here watching the game with my dad and I said, the score hasn't gone down still. And then 10 minutes later, the score still hadn't been corrected. And I remember being like, oh, well, I guess it must have just gone over the bar and the scoreboard has it right. Very unprecedented scenes here.
It was, yeah. And even I was watching it at the time and I was thinking when Noel McGrath's apparent point happened, then I was thinking, I was thinking that it was wide because of the way Jur was saying it in commentary, and then I suppose then the score went up, and I was like, I was very, very confused. I was with my dad and my mom just watching the game, and I was like, it has gone up to 421, or is it 420, or did the shot go wide? And then I remembered the umpire that was nearest to the flag waved it wide. Yeah. So I was like, sure, it's wide then. But then the scoreboard was 421 and RT weren't changing it. And neither were the Croke Park officials, as Morris Brosnan's tweet said it as well. So I was like, what is going on here? And then I was trying to get confirmation on Twitter. There was so many answers saying, 421. And then eventually there was a break on RT. And then Joanne said the official score of today's game was Tipperary 421, Kilkenny 30 points. I was thinking, okay, brilliant. I'm putting up the stats here. And then the statement comes out, and I'm like, "You're kidding! This is an All-Ireland Semi Final, lads. Come on, it's you can't mess up a score like this." But for the record, I actually think that Noel McGrath shot went wide. But
I thought so too. And there was no complaints as well from Noel McGrath. It wasn't like Noel was running in, being like that was over. No Tipperary player protested it. That was
they didn't. It was wide, yeah, but. The question is why the scoreboard went up to 421 and why RT's scoreboard went up to 421. The two main scores that you actually look at in terms of watching a game. So, it's weird. It really was an unprecedented time. But it's amazing, Seamus, with all the technology, with Hawkeye and with score enhancements and things like that in match previews and things, and a lot of reading on match day programs, that the scoreline could be messed up. The most basic thing in the game. It's ridiculous. Like, it's something you would expect in my time, like in a short time, obviously, reporting on games down here in Cork at club level. You usually get the score wrong when there's no scoreboard. But that, in a way, is acceptable because, like, the referee will have a different score to the scoreboard operator. The scoreboard operators are usually maybe a bunch of teenagers, just volunteers for the club or whatever. But these are supposed to be kind of, close to professionals in terms of operating the scoreboard. So how they could get it wrong like that, I don't know. Especially when there's flags there, where there's white flags, there's green flags. There's a big screen as well in Croke Park. How they could mess it up, I don't know.
Well, usually someone's onto them straight away. Usually someone is down pitch side and someone's up in the media box and everything like that, and they can get on the phone to whoever's operating the scoreboard and point it out to them. And look, you don't want to hammer them too much because this is so unprecedented, because the people who are doing this tend to be pretty good, and that's why we haven't really seen this before. But it's a very unprecedented situation. How far do you think this could go? Do you think Kilkenny have a very, very rightful claim for, like, we're hearing mad stuff now. I was having a look at Twitter and there's people floating replay. Like, surely it couldn't go that far, could it? Because, I mean, like, it does change the way you play going down the home stretch. But, like, if the Kilmacud, Waddy Grange Glen situation didn't end in a replay, then I don't think this will.
No, I don't think this will either, especially when, like, there was arguments that Tipperary were going for a goal and they may not have needed a goal. I was seeing that next earlier, but Kilkenny would have needed a goal in any case. If there were 2 points down, if there were 3 points down, they would need a goal in any case to draw the game. So I don't think that would have changed the mindset of the Kilkenny players. So it is a mistake, and it is baffling, really, how they could get it wrong in an All-Ireland semi-final. but in an inter-county game at that as well in Croke Park. But would it have a significant feature on the Kilkenny side of things? I'm not so sure. Maybe Kilkenny fans might think differently in the comments, but I'm not so sure it would.
Yeah, David says here, in fairness, we've not had a long-running, easily avoided saga this summer yet. Yeah, I mean, they've polished up a lot of the loose ends in which we've had over the GA over the last few years. But let's put that aside as best we can, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. And to be honest, I don't think anything's going to happen. As Matthew said there, I don't think it changes too much. Kilkenny still would have needed to go for goal. Look, it definitely doesn't help on the mental side of things because you feel like you're further away than you are. But yeah, it would have been, in my opinion, way worse if they had added on an extra point to Kilkenny and Kilkenny thought that they were further ahead or things like that before the O'Donoghue goal. I think that would have been much more of a problem. If Kilkenny were coming back into the game anyway, overshooting is way, way, way better than undershooting. And I feel like that would have been then the big problem. But let's jump back in. So Tipperary 420, Kilkenny 30 points. Tipperary smashing 4 goals, 3 of them in the first half, and then an absolute worldie from Oisin O'Donoghue in the second half to overcome Kilkenny in Croke Park and set up, incredibly, the first ever All-Ireland final between Cork and Tipperary, which will take place in 2 weeks' time. Matthew, what did you make of Tipperary here? They came good in this one.
They did, and goals win games. That's always the saying. And Tipperary got them, in fairness to them. Like, when you look at actually the shooting accuracies, Kilkenny had a 76% shot accuracy, 30 points, and still lost the game. That's, you have to put your hands up there and say how on earth Kilkenny with those stats could lose the game, in fairness. But it was the goals, and Oisin O'Donoghue, that man again, goal against Waterford, crucial time, goal against Galway to seal us in the quarter-final, and now a goal today, absolutely superb finish as well. I thought, we'll get on to the Camogie in a sec, but I thought we wouldn't have a better, top corner finish goal than Clodagh back at Thursday earlier today, but that was a superb finish by Oisin O'Donoghue, and a young player as well, under 20 this season. That was a really, really neat finish as well, and Kilkenny, ultimately, the goals made sure they came up a crupper now today. But you look at all the stats there, very, very even in terms of it. Shooting accuracy, Tipperary had slightly less, but Tipperary got crucial scores in terms of goals. Genuinely, the difference was the goals. Tipperary got them, Kilkenny didn't, and that was the main thing out of today's game as well. At 4:14 for play for Tipperary, 21 points for Kilkenny. Tip at 12 wides, and I'm sure they'll have to improve on that in the All-Ireland Final, I'm sure. But look, it was a brilliant win for Tipperary. Yes, the red card for Darragh McCarthy. If it was harsher, that Seamus, I genuinely feel sorry for the guy. That's his second red card in the championship, 19 years of age. You don't want that to happen to a young guy.
Yeah.
Do I think it was there was worse challenges in the game? I'll put it that way. To warrant that as a second yellow, yes, it's needless on Owen Murphy, but a little tap on the hand or a second yellow.
Well, when you saw him just minutes later, Paddy Deegan smacking Andrew Ormond in the back of the head with the hurl, I was thinking, well, how on earth has he got away with it with a yellow card there? Michael Kerry got a yellow. I was like, I swear Mikey Kerry actually tried to block, whereas it was Deegan's hurl that came in on the back of the head here. So how he managed to get away without anything there, whereas McCarthy got a second yellow for a flick on the hand. And look, don't get me wrong, if he didn't have a yellow, and this is where you're getting into kind of a bit contradicting yourself, if he didn't have a yellow card, if that was his first one, I wouldn't mind him getting a yellow for that. But the second yellow, you're like, oh, Jesus, it feels really harsh. But then again, I played in a club game where someone got a second yellow card for saying shit. The word shit. So we've seen some weird yellow, second yellows. I've seen some weird yellow, second yellows, everything like that. So, yeah, look, Peter here says ref didn't have the best day out. We'll jump into the game and we'll jump into where we think Tip won this and where we think Kilkenny lost it. So in the first half, I was driving home listening to this on the radio. I saw the second half on TV, but I listened to the first half on the radio. Denise says, will this prohibit McCarthy from playing? No. He got 2 yellow cards, not a straight red. So he is going to be okay to play in the All-Ireland Final, which is huge for Tip. But I was listening to the radio in the first half, Marty Morrissey and John Milan on commentary. By the way, both of them are fantastic on the radio commentary. Absolutely love listening to them. And in the first half, John Milan basically said Tipperary are doing to Kilkenny what Kilkenny usually do to other teams, as in Kilkenny were all over Tip for large periods of that first half. They were outscoring them, they were outworking them. But Tipperary hit for goals. And, you know, you're talking about Jason Ford's goal, Darren McCarthy's goal, John McGrath's goal, Matthew. They were ruthless when they got these chances.
Yeah, exactly. They were every time they got the goal chances in around the square, they took them, and you have to give Tipperary a lot of credit for that. Darren McCarthy obviously getting one of the goals, and John McGrath's goal, especially in the first half, was a really good finish as well. From the edge of the square. Then Jason Ford's finish was a nice little flick as well after a brilliant pass by Darren McCarthy. It's just a shame Darren did get the red card, because I thought, okay, he missed a few frees in the second half, but he was performing very, very well up to that point. Like the assist for the Jason Ford goal was just magic. It was just, the little bit of a hand pass and then bang back in the net. It was absolutely brilliant in terms of that. Like you look at some of Tip's chances in and around the square. I think they had, 5 goal chances. They took 4, and that was the key thing out of it. And Kilkenny had 2 goal chances, one at the very, very end, where it was blocked by a combination of Doyle for Tipperary and Rhys Shelley. Other than that, I don't think Kilkenny had much goal chances in this game, so that was quite concerning from their point of view. John Donnelly had the shot, which was saved, but it tipped Duo. So look, it was just a difference in today's game. Tipperary got the goals, Kilkenny didn't, and Tip, they've been doing it throughout the whole year. They've gone for goals, even when they were under the. Well, I wouldn't say they were under the caution Ennis against Clare, but they were certainly underdogs going into that game. But as soon as the game started, they eyed goal in that game against Clare, and they eyed goal in this game as well. Like, I think Michael Duggan mentioned in commentary, after about 10 or 12 minutes, Tip only got 1 goal through John McGrath. They didn't get any point at the board. And if it wasn't for John McGrath's goal, they would have been miles off Kilkenny or in early stages. And they kind of turned the tide as the first half went on as well. So that was a pleasing aspect for them, going in 4 points ahead at halftime. So look, the goals were the key thing from a Tipperary point of view. They got them in the end. And yeah, that was the key winning and losing of today's game.
Yeah, no, I agree. In that second half, then they pushed on, and we have to take a special moment here to talk about Oisin O'Donoghue's goal. I mean, is this goal of the season? I mean, he gets a snapshot, like he literally gets a split second to have a go at this, and his result is to absolutely rocket it into the top corner of Owen Murphy's net. And genuinely, like, you're watching it, that makes you jump out of your seat. That's magic stuff. And for such a young player to come into the fray when he did, I remember thinking, God, Cal's really trusting the youngsters here now, bringing in O'Donoghue at such a crunch time in the game. There's no doubt the lad has such talent, but by God, this is crunch time to be bringing in such a young lad. By God, that boy stood up. What a shot into the back of the net. Unbelievable goal, unbelievable finish, unbelievable talent this guy has. Tip, the young lads came good for them today.
Yeah, exactly. And not even just Oisin O'Donoghue, and not even just Darren McCarthy, but Sam O'Farrell as well, who was captain of the under-20 team, was doing well at wing forward as well. And you look at, even, I know he wasn't in the under-20s, but Owen Conley getting 3 points was key for them as well at full back. But O'Donoghue, like the goals he has been getting this year, okay, the Galway game maybe didn't matter that much, but the finish that he had in Thurles against Waterford, I was just like, this guy's oozing in class. Like, even to sit the Waterford defence down and just to slide rule into the back of the net, like, that's something you see off FIFA. Like, that was absolutely exceptional, that goal against Waterford. Whereas today's goal against Kilkenny, oh, what a goal. Like, it was something that would make you, like, as a neutral, I was neutral, it seemed, who would make the final, Kilkenny, Tipperary, who would face up against my own County Cork, obviously.
Anyone can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But from that point of view, it was the kind of goal that a neutral would just sit up out of your seat and say, oh, what a finish. Like, it was just incredible. I think the other goal in switching to Gaelic football that got me out of my seat like that was Kevin McMenamin's goal against Kerry. It was just something that would just rock the whole stadium, and it was just a brilliant goal from O'Shea, and he was getting some crucial goals throughout the whole year in senior grades and under 20 as well. Like, this guy has been a live wire for Tipperary and a great addition off the bench in the last few games as well. So if he was to get another goal against Cork in the All-Ireland Final off the bench, that would be 4 goals out of 5 games coming off the bench for Tipperary in the championship. That would be some record, wouldn't it?
That would be unbelievable. We're going to keep moving from this game as well, because we do actually have a lot to get through as well. But mentioning what else we have. So before we wrap up, Darren McCarthy, so the red card at Darren McCarthy as well, I thought was unfortunate. I can see why he was given the second yellow, but by God, you felt for the lad. Like, I mean, it wasn't malicious what he did. He didn't try to hurt Owen Murphy. He stuck the hurl out. He caught him. You can see why it's a second yellow, but then in instances, Paddy Deegan was very lucky to not get a booking for that challenge on Andrew Ormond. Like, we could see instances where McCarthy would be hard done by. But anyway, he will play in the final. That's not going to be a suspension because it's 2 yellow cards, thankfully. And then the scoreboard incident at the end, unprecedented that there'd be a scoreboard mistake. The full-time score was incorrect up until it was corrected to be in 4:20 to tip 30 points to Kilkenny. But Tipperary still got over the line, and I don't think it would have had too much of an impact on Kilkenny. I think it would have had way more of an impact if Kilkenny thought they were further ahead at one point. It's better to overshoot than to undershoot. I think Tipperary would have still got over the line anyway. But yeah, the last thing then that I'm just going to touch on for Tipperary, because let's be honest, when Tipperary lost to Cork in the Munster Championship, when Darren McCarthy got that early red card and Cork swept Tip out of the gate, all of a sudden then all the chat was Liam Cahill syndrome, Tipperary have burned out too early again, they went for the league too hard, they've done it again. My God, they've shut those people up into an All-Ireland final. They've been fantastic since that day against Cork.
Yeah, they have been really, really good. And even look at the score lines that they put up since the Cork game, like they beat Clare. They've actually won, what is this, 5 games in a row now for the first time since the mid-2010s. You have to give Liam Cahill a lot of credit for that, especially when the narrative around Tipperary hurling after that game against Cork was, oh God, is this the Liam Cahill syndrome? Is it going to happen again with Tipperary this year? But no, they've stood up. The players have stood up, and you look at the youngsters coming through as well as the older guard, you have to say. Like Ronan Maher around the defence today was absolutely brilliant, clearing up ball. Like I thought, even Alan Tynan coming onto the pitch, ruffled a few feathers out of the Kilkenny side, did very well. John McGrath obviously scoring goals for fun this year. He's got 1-2 for playing out today, one of the top scorers for playing the championship this season. Even look at Jason Ford, the way he flicked the ball in as well, and he's been a really, really top player for Tipperary this season as well. And the funny thing going into this All-Ireland Final with Tip and Cork, like you look at it, Noel McGrath has multiple All-Ireland medals. John McGrath has an All-Ireland medal. Jason Ford has an All-Ireland medal. Like Tipperary actually have more experience in winning All-Irelands than this Cork team, and Cork are going in as favourites. So it's a nice little angle going to the All-Ireland Final when you think about it that way. So look, Tip will have no fear of Cork going to the final. They are a good side. They're there on merit. 5 games in a row, as I said, with the win. So look, Liam Cahill will be absolutely delighted, especially after winning in the manner which they did today. So yeah, it's all of the up for Tipperary. When you look at their under 20s coming through, when their minors won the All-Ireland last year as well, Tipperary hurling's on a nice upward trajectory right now. Oh,
it certainly is. I think, and I'll ask you this. No, so I'll ask you about Kilkenny after. But just on Cork Limerick, I'll ask you this later. Stay tuned. Gavin here says, thoughts on Kilkenny's future. This is their longest famine now of 11 years. They remind me of Man United, a big team with a massive drop-off. Like Kilkenny have been hoovering up the Leinster titles. What have they got now? 6 in a row in the Leinster Championship? But they haven't been tested. Nobody's really pushed them. I mean, Wexford were the last team to win Leinster other than Kilkenny way back in 2019. So that's pre-pandemic. And Kilkenny have just had dominance over the province since then, but they haven't been able to turn it into All-Ireland success. What have they been lacking, in your opinion?
Really, honestly, I think it may be forwards, because somebody was saying to me beforehand, Kilkenny do have brilliant defenders. Hugh Lawler, Mikey Butler, even Richie Reid, the rogue centre back today.
They scored 30 points and they conceded 420.
They still only conceded 20 points, Seamus. But the key thing is, and I'm getting onto it with the forwards, they just don't have enough goal getters in it.
Okay.
I know they scored 5 goals against Dublin in Nolan Park, but even as a dub yourself, you probably admit the first half in Nolan Park, Dublin were at safe defensively.
Goals, mate.
Yeah, exactly. That too.
Better to laugh than to cry.
But when you look at it, other than that, Kilkenny haven't really hit the net as frequently as other teams. Well, like when you looked at the Galway game, 2 of those were mistakes, genuine mistakes defensively. The first goal that Kilkenny scored through Bossy Keown, and the last goal through Dara Walsh. I would say I was feeling sorry for Dara Walsh, obviously, at the stage, the Galway goalkeeper. But the point is, Kilkenny scored 2 soft goals against Galway. You look at it as well. Wexford, I think they only scored 1 in the Leinster Championship. Offaly, not much to write about either. I think only 2 against Antrim as well. So Kilkenny just don't score enough goals, in my opinion. And that was a worry going to the day, in fairness. Like, other than Mossy Keown, they haven't been scoring goals freely as a team, which is a negative from Kilkenny point of view. And they didn't have that bite up front. Like Tipperary, once they saw the red zone in going for the back of the net, they went for it. Whereas Kilkenny, they were very, very, I would say, at stages even. There was one stage, I think Jordan Malloy was at the edge of the second arc, not the football arc, the 40-metre arc, the arc that was originally there. Kilkenny were at the edge of that. I think Jordan Malloy had the chance to kind of run in unopposed, and then he decides to flick the ball over. And it's like, Jordan Malloy had a brilliant game, by the way. He scored 3 points. But that kind of epitomised Kilkenny just don't have the onus to go for goals. And that is a negative moving on down the line as well. And I think that would be one aspect that Derek Lee needs to improve. But other than Mossy Keown, you need more goal getters in this team. You need a lot of, like, when you look at other Kilkenny players, like I know TJ's over the hills at this stage, but you look at other players, Owen Cody, I know he scored a battered effort against Clare last year, which was a brilliant tennis-style finish. But other than that, I don't think he's been free-flowing in scoring goals.
He hasn't been fit this year, to be honest. He hasn't been.
He hasn't, no. He hasn't at all. Like when you look at the younger players coming through, even Billy Grennan scores a lot of points, but not too much goals. John Donnelly, brilliant point scorer. Adrian Mullen, brilliant point scorer. But when the goal chances come and present themselves in big opportunities, in big games, they just can't take them. And that is a negative for Kilkenny.
Yeah, they're really missing a player like an Eddie Brennan. Like Eddie Brennan was, in that 2000s team. Henry Shefflin would be the type that would keep the scoreboard ticking over, whereas Eddie Brennan was the type that would just get a hat-trick or get 2 goals or something like that. And he was always key. Owen Larkin as well used to always find a way to get himself into positions to hit the back of the net. A2 says Kilkenny can't get over the line. Years of it now. Leinster is so far off Munster now. The round robin series has guaranteed Munster dominance. So many competitive games, Munster teams are far above. Well, Dublin did beat the last champions of the last 6 years before this year with 14 men on the pitch. So some days we can compete, other days we can't. Peter Griffin says Ling's term up. Interesting. The camera did pan to him at full time, and I did think he looked a bit, I don't know, removed from the situation or something. Like he looked like he was very much letting it sink in on him. So I would say no, I don't think he is going to be gone. On top of that, Denise here says, I think what has proved costly for Kilkenny in the big days over the last years is incapability to adapt to momentum shifting away from them. That would be really interesting. Also, a very good tactic, as Porter says here. Cahill's tactic was to draw Hugh Lawler out the field. That was really, really good by Liam Cahill and Tipperary there today. I think when you look at it this way, I think the 2022 All-Ireland Final for Kilkenny is the one that I would look at and think they were brilliant that year. They were fantastic that year. That was the year that Kilkenny ripped Clare to shreds in the All-Ireland Semi Final. Mikey Butler marked Tony Kelly out of the game. And then they ended up losing to Limerick. I think, 130 to 226 that game finished. So Kilkenny scored 226 in an All-Ireland final and lost. And They were unbelievable that year, but they just couldn't quite get over the line. I think when Brian Cody had that team really, really strong, I think that 2022 team was better than the one that they had in 2015 that actually won the All-Ireland. Just Limerick were too good. But since then, since Cody's left, I think they've gone a step backwards every year. And I'm not saying that that's a slant on Derek Ling. It's not. It's just you're losing key players year after year after year. And when Cody leaves, it's the same thing that I said about Desi Farrell taking over after Jim Gavin. Desi did an amazing job, but when the only way is down, it's usually not fun being the pilot. And the truth is that when you follow on from a legend, it's very hard to keep the same standards. It's very hard to not take a step back. And Kilkenny have taken a step back, even though they've got 6 Leinsters. Nobody's really laid a glove on them. Like, I mean, apart from that final where Killian Buckley smashed in the late winner, one Leinster final this year, Galway didn't lay a glove on them. The Leinster final the year before, Dublin, we were absolutely blown to bits by them. Like, they have had it kind of their own way in most of the Leinster finals. So they need to take that next step because it can go fairly quickly. Like, we saw there with Dublin footballers, 1995 to 2011, it took us to win our next All-Ireland. Kilkenny are only 5 years off Dublin now. In that drought. They're only 5 years off matching the 16-year drought that we had. So they really, really, really need to get an All-Ireland soon. Now, we will move on, though. Fair play to Tipperary. Incredible victory in that All-Ireland semi-final. And now we will move on to this All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship semi-final. Cork put on an absolute masterclass in this game. 7-26 to 2-21. They were absolutely goal hungry from the start. It was very clear that the message to the Cork players was, if you get the chance, go for goal every single time. Unbelievable stuff from the Cork forward line. You have to hold your hands up. I was there. I was in the Nelly stand watching those goals go in. Alan Connolly with a hat-trick. Brian Hayes with 2-1. Tim O'Mahony with 2-1. A scarily good performance. Like, the power on show from this Cork team. They look ready for an All-Ireland. They remind me so much of Tipperary 2010, ironically, now that they're playing Tip in the final. But you remember how Tip fell agonisingly short in 2009 and they came back in 2010 and they were like, would not be denied. Cork are giving that energy now. I picked them at the start of the year to win the All-Ireland. I haven't changed my mind after seeing this absolutely sensational display. Matthew, as a Cork fan, how do you even begin to recap that?
Just such a good performance on so many levels. When you look at the thing that pleased me the most, not just the goals, in fired the goals. I think I knew Cork had that in their locker. It was just about executing in a way. What I didn't know was the shooting accuracy in a way. We got 76% yesterday. And when you consider we had 17 wides against Limerick and 17 wides against Waterford as well, and our shooting accuracies was about 50, sometimes even the late 40s, 60s, all throughout the year. To get 76% yesterday was scarily good. Yeah. And what struck me actually about Pat Ryan's interview, I watched it RT, obviously at the game, I was over Cusack there with my mate and a few others. And I looked at Pat Ryan's interview and he said that our shooting wasn't good enough. And I was like, 76%.
No, I seen that. I was like, oh, shut up, will you? Do me a favour. You scored what? 7-26. 76% shot accuracy, and you're saying our shooting wasn't good enough. Like, literally on the Nally stand, that's just, you don't want to get carried away. You don't want to put fuel on the fire. Like, Jim Gavin was an expert in that as well. Dublin would be playing against a team that were in Division 4, like in the Leinster Championship, and Jim Gavin would be asked, like, do you think you're going to win this? And he'd be like, oh, look, it's a difficult game. We have to take every game as it comes and all that. Very trained answers, and I think that's what that was from Pat Ryan. I think he will be happy with the shooting, especially I felt in that first half. Decky Dalton, especially in that first half. That guy, every time he got on the ball, I was like, oh, who the fuck is marking Decky Dalton? Like, because every time he got it, bang, over the bar. From huge distances out, by the way.
Yeah.
He was amazing. And does he have to start in the final now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he has been, other than injuries, a main guy for Cork for the last 2 seasons now. and he has developed his game. He was a big part player under Kieran Kingston around 2020, 2021, but now he's grown into his own and being one of the main players. Like, literally, for his club father, Neil Seamus, he's scoring, like, no joke, no. I think they scored or something like 214 against Ebo Kelly at the quarterfinal of the Cork Premier Senior Hurling Championship last year. And Decky got 212 of that. No joke. He's just absolutely incredible in so many ways in terms of his shooting, in terms of G'ing up the team as well. Like, he's just an unreal hurler when you look at that. But the full forward line now yesterday with Hoggy, Conley, Hayes, like, every time they got the ball, there was so good chemistry between them. It was so good to watch. Like, Conley, ironically, that was one guy we're thinking 1-7 throughout the whole championship. He hasn't hit his heights yet. And unfortunately for you guys, Seamus, he hit his heights yesterday, 3-2. Like, to be fair, that was a tally of 11, and he got 10 up until now.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a brilliant performance in fairness from Conley. And like, he scored plenty of hat-tricks at championship level, even at his young stage of his career, which is exceptional. I remember him scoring a hat-trick against Tip last year as well, and he was just electric that day. Brian Hayes as well. In fairness, Tim O'Bady in midfield, so you have to give him a lot of credit for coming up and getting the 2 goals as well. He brought a big onus into the midfield as well. Darragh Fitzgibbon as well didn't have his best year, I would say, up until now, but 3 points from play, really, really good. Dermot Healy as well. Shane Kingston, he'd been coming on and getting 2 points. Like, even the likes of Connolly had Jack O'Connor came onto the pitch and got points. That was great to see in terms of their confidence. So look, it was just a good day, or not just a good day, a great day all around for the Cork hurlers, obviously. And I think a lot of people were kind of, I would say, unfair on the Dublin hurlers afterwards. Like, they were saying, like, some people were saying, I remember Colin Parker's tweet. I don't know if you see this, James. He was saying how Limerick lost to Dublin. And I was like, well, a guy from Clubber, Gary Toohey, who's a brilliant commentator up, by the way, he said, it's sport. And another thing as well, I literally think Limerick took Dublin lightly. They didn't expect Dublin to go hell for leather in this game. They thought they'd waltz at the Crow Park and win the game. But Dublin were like tapping on the shoulder, not so fast. We have a good performance in us, and we're going to get the job done. Look, they came up against a Cork team that, unfortunately for Dublin, it just was like they performed well against Limerick, and then Cork were like, whoa, now we know what to expect. We better perform up to our usual standards. It's just the fact, can we execute it on the day? And to be fair to the lads, they absolutely did. Like, every goal that went in, every turnover as well. Like, even defensively, Sean O'Donoghue has to be one of the best defenders so far this year, I have to imagine. Like, the turnovers he was getting, like, I think our good friend Dan Casey actually mentioned a very good point on this, that he's kind of lost a bit of strength, but what he has increased on is his speed and his know-how for the game. He has developed massively into a great cornerback. Noel O'Leary wasn't fully fit, had a great game. Rob Downey, I thought, was superb. I know he wasn't fully fit coming in.
He built us in the first half.
He was
I was standing behind Sean Brennan's puckouts, and I was like, stop hitting them down on top of Rob Downey, because he's cleaning up. And that was another thing as well that felt inevitable about Cork as well in the first half, was Downey was cleaning up from our puckouts, and he was giving it to Tim O'Mahony, Darragh Fitzgibbon, and then on the flip side, Patrick Collins was getting all of his puckouts away to Cork players, and it felt like we were boxed in. And when you're boxed in, it's only a matter of time before the dam breaks. You can only hold it for so long, especially with a forward line as good as Cork's. And that's a great point that you made about the confidence, because what happened with Limerick was Limerick just completely took us lightly. Like, I have no doubts about that. They thought they were going to win. And what happened was, the longer we hung in there, the longer we stuck with them, the longer that they didn't finish us off, they got increasingly nervous, started making mistakes. We grew in confidence, and then we knew we could beat them. But what happened was that basically let the cat out the bag then for Cork. They were like, well, we know that we can't take these lightly. We have to. And it was pretty clear that Pat Ryan had said, if we get the opportunity, bury it. Like, absolute, don't take any chances. Don't let the Dubs grow in confidence. If we get the chances in the first 20 minutes, go for goal every time. And I mean, 4 first half goals. It was pretty impressive. And then to top it off with 3 more in the second half, it's one of the most impressive attacking performances I've seen, because this Dublin team is not a bad team. I just think Cork are really, really, really good. I think, and we had an off day. We played Russian roulette. We didn't block up the defence to try and stop Cork scoring goals. We went with the same way that we beat Limerick, and after beating Limerick, why wouldn't we go with the same way? Obviously, in hindsight, it didn't go well, but all in all, it's been a good year for Dublin. I just think this Cork team is ready for the big one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was just a kind of coming of age really for both sides. Like Cork, it seemed like this is our time. But when you look at Dublin, there are young players and they will come back into it. It was just a shame that the likes of Andrew Dunphy and Conor McHugh came off early, and obviously that kind of upset Dublin's rhythm as well. I know Andrew Dunphy kind of had to come off. He was booked, so they weren't going to take any risks. And I know Neil O'Callaghan did probably make the right decision there, because like if Cork were running through and Andrew Dunphy took one for the team and got another yellow, then that would have made the scoreline even more uglier in a way. But like, they did everything they could, Dublin. They put Hedgehow into the square, which I thought they would do. Start him, John Herron, into the square and see what you can get out of the high ball. But a few good performances on the Dublin team. I know it's scant consolation, Seamus, from a Dublin point of view, but Conor Burke was brilliant, I thought, around the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Fergal Whiteley took his score as well. And I have to mention one guy, Cian O'Sullivan. 5 goals and 22 points from playing this year's championship. 2-5 yesterday and 7 shots out of 7 attempts. If there was one guy to get a bit of confidence out of this game and this year in general, Cian O'Sullivan's one player. And I think, honestly, it would be a bit of a disgrace if he didn't get an All-Star this year. I think he's been absolutely superb throughout the whole season. Like, it wasn't just yesterday scored 2-5. 5 goals and 22 points from play, not only from free, from play, is absolutely superb, and he has to be considered as one of the front runners for an All-Star this year. But look, Neil O'Callaghan, he's done a really good job at Dublin, and you see what he did with the Fianna. Like, I think there's a lot of potential in this Dublin team in the next few years. The next aim now, win a Leinster title. I think that has to be the major aim next season, to go for that. It was just a sobering kind of day at the office from this Dublin team. But look, up-and-coming teams have had this. I remember Cork in 2021 got a battering off Limerick in Croke Park.
Yeah.
And we fell down after that game. But look at us now, 4 years later, we're in an All-Ireland Final going into the favourites against Tip. Look at Tip. Tip got battered in nearly every game last year. And look at them now this year, they're in an All-Ireland Final. So it's about taking the learnings from a Dublin point of view and seeing what you could do next season. But I think from a Dublin point of view, and Neil O'Callaghan's, the thing is to win a Leinster championship next season. I think you're well capable of it. Galway aren't as good as they used to be. Wexford are probably going downwards, if anything. Okay, off there on an upward trajectory. Kilkenny are still Kilkenny in the Leinster championship. But you have a major chance of winning it next year. I honestly believe that.
I do as well. I really do. Sean says here, as a Dublin hurling fan, I can see this as a successful year, given where we realistically are. As long as this year and the win over Limerick wasn't a flash in the pan, and we continue to grow. I agree. I think, look, with O'Callaghan, it's his first year in the job. He is a fantastic coach. We've seen him taking the Fianna up through the gears, up through the levels to eventually winning the All-Ireland Hurling Championship for clubs. We've seen him go up through the gears in the Fianna to win the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship. And bringing him in, he is going to be our manager for the next 5, 6, 7 years, I think. We can build a team with him. We can build something with him. He's not going to go after 3 years to a different county or anything like that. And I really want to see us build something. You mentioned it there, Matthew. Cork had a horrific day in the All-Ireland Hurling Final against Limerick in 2021. They rebuilt. Now look where they are. Tipperary got decimated by Cork in Semple Stadium last year in a really, really dark day for Tipperary hurling. Just 1 year later, they've turned it around. They're back in an All-Ireland final. Now, it's going to take us longer, obviously, than a year, because Tipperary had those under-20 lads coming through, and obviously you knew that the talent was there. They just were terrible that day for whatever reason. But we can make changes. You saw with Limerick, like Limerick 2015, 2016, were way off the pace. And then just 5 years later, they won the All-Ireland in 2018, 2020, 2021, and they're into their 4 in a row years. So it's not impossible if we put the right structures in place, if we get the right people involved. And I think with O'Callaghan, we have the right manager as well. And look, as a Dublin hurling fan, I'm proud of the lads for the year that we've had. A bad end to an amazing year. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, for Cork, what a game. Like, just unbelievable display. And this is what I was going to say to you earlier. Cork versus Tipperary in the All-Ireland Final. Unbelievably, it's the first ever All-Ireland Final between Cork and Tipperary. And I think when you look at the age profile of the Cork key players and Tipperary's key players, I think this could be the opening shot in terms of an All-Ireland Final of what could be a rivalry that defines the 2020s. Because when you look at the success that Tip have had at under 20 level and minor level, when you look at the stars that Cork have and the age profile that they're at as well, neither of these teams are going anywhere anytime soon, and both of them are hungry for Liam McCarthy's success. Do you think this final could be the opening shot of a hell of a rivalry?
Potentially. So coincidentally, actually, these two sides were synonymous for playing each other in under 20 All-Ireland finals. I remember back in 2019, I think it was Jade Morris' time. Jade Morris broke our hearts, obviously, with a late goal that time. And I think Cork have a few fellas hanging around the team as well from that age. Obviously, Tip has some younger players moving up through the panel as well. I think Cork beat them in the COVID under 20 final in 2020 as well near Christmas. So like, they had those battles at under 20 level. And ironically, Pat Ryan was actually the manager of the under 20 team in 2020 that beat Tipperary in the Munster final. Liam Cahill was the manager of the under 20 Tipperary team in 2019 when Tipperary won the All-Ireland. So it's kind of fitting that these two managers are now over these senior teams. And it's a new age for both counties. But look, he's probably going to be a rivalry. In terms of hatred, like, I think genuinely, and I genuinely mean this, I don't know, I think when you look at all Munster counties, it's Tipperary is probably the one county that Cork fans actually respect for some reason. And there's no real hate. Maybe so.
The John Doyle, the Jimmy Doyles. That's hurling heritage right there.
It is, yeah. There isn't much, like, when you look at Cork and Waterford, hate Waterford. Cork Limerick, you know what it is with Limerick. Even Cork Kerry in football, no. Cork Clare over the last few years with Clare doing stuff off the ball, probably not. Whereas with Tip, I'm not, like, maybe it is, like, Tipperary plays some nice hurling as well, and they do have hurling history in fairness to them. They've been in the wilderness like ourselves in many ways for the last number of seasons. So it is going to be a very, very interesting All-Ireland final, and hopefully it will be the start of a new rivalry. But with respect as well, with respect for either Tipperary players. I am obviously up for Cork in the final for obvious reasons, but I have huge respect for what Tipperary have done this year, how they've brought through the likes of O'Shea O'Donoghue, Darren McCarthy, how John McGrath played this season, Owen Conley at the full backline, Ronan Maher the way he's captain the side, Liam Calvert, whose turnaround he's done with this Tipperary team. I admire everything they've done in Tipperary at the moment, especially after the results you mentioned last year in Thurles, which was a dark day for Tipperary on the pitch and in the stands, where Cork absolutely dominated them in every kind of aspect. But it feels like now Tipperary fans are getting behind the team more. The players are seeping a bit of confidence more as well. And it's going to be an excellent All-Ireland final. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I really believe that. Like, I mean, what a difference a year can make there for Tip. I mean, this time last year, they just gone out with the Munster Championship after being dominated, as you said, on the pitch and in the stands by Cork in their own stadium. That was a pretty horrific day for Tip hurling. And to see Liam Cahill as well be the one to turn it around, huge respect for him there. Stockman Tim says it's all coming together for Tip at the perfect time. They've shown real fight in several big games so far. Cork can't defend. Tip can. Interesting. And we have a couple of comments directed at you, Matthew. Our good friend Liam White. He said, Matt, you'll have to wear your Tip jersey for the decider. And Denise says, I'm sorry, Matthew, but I think Tip will take huge confidence from today's win and claim Liam. I have backed Tip to win from early this year. I'm not changing now. My early prediction for the final is I do think Cork are going to win. I'm sorry, Denise. I'm sorry, Tim. I'm sorry, any Tip fans. After seeing the Cork performance there against Dublin, I know Tip won't concede goals the way that Dublin conceded goals, but Cork have so much firepower, and I think they're a little bit further on in their journey than Tipperary are. Tip, the age profile there is still young, and going off as well the league final and that Munster Championship game. I know every game is different, but Cork won both of those games fairly easy. Now, I don't think it's going to be the same in the final. I think Tip will run them a lot closer, but I think Cork will win by 1 or 2. I think that's what I'm going to go for. Peter says, lads, doesn't this just show how bizarre, mad, crazy and unpredictable the hurling championship is? I mean, absolutely, Peter. Matthew, imagine saying 2 months ago that Dublin would beat Limerick, then concede 7 goals to Cork in the semi-final and lose. Then Tip and Kilkenny would play in the other semi-final. Tip would win, but the scoreboard would be wrong. And Tip would go into the final. Imagine saying at the start of the year that Clare wouldn't even get out of the Munster Championship. Like, there's so many things that happen this year that are really, really, really... Like, that Kildare would win the Joe McDonagh over Laois and Carlow. We've seen so many upsets that London would win as well. The Christie Ring. We've seen so many incredible... New York winning the Laurie Mar. Unbelievable stuff. We've seen so many unbelievable games in this year's hurling championship. Guys, we have a lot of people watching, which I absolutely love to see. Throw in any comments you have or from the weekend. Get involved in the discussion just like we've been doing. We're going to move then from hurling to camogie and starting off with this clash here. Tipperary 122, Kilkenny 19 points at Croke Park. This game finished 16 points apiece at the end of normal time, and then the game turned on a dime in extra time. Matthew, I'll let you walk us through it. Tipperary, very, very lucky. Kilkenny hit the back of the net, but then the referee brings it back for a penalty. And what happened after this?
Yeah, it was kind of a bizarre kind of a few minutes in extra time, because before that, just the context in this, Kilkenny got the last score through Laura Murphy to send this to extra time. When Tip looked to have it won with a few points from Jean Kelly, moving down the home stretch, you were thinking, okay, the favourites are going to come up on top here, and eventually the challengers in Kilkenny will fall short despite a spirited enough display. Then Kilkenny scored the last bit of point through Murphy. Then to get the first 3 points at extra time to make it 19 points to 16, and we're thinking, okay, Kilkenny looking really, really good here. Then the penalty happens. Caoimhe Kerr-Borta, it went into the square. It looked like she was dragged by the shirt, and then she flicked the ball home. It went to the net rustled, but the referee went in and gave a penalty, so the goal was obviously chalked off. So the penalty was taken by Aoife Prendergast, who the commentary team of Sarah O'Donovan and Liam Ahern on RT actually said she was pulling up while taking the penalty. So that was a bit harsh in that kind of incident. It was unlucky from a Kilkenny point of view that happened at that present moment. But Laura Linehan saved the penalty. Brilliant save, in fairness to her. I know it was a bit of a tame effort for Aoife, but probably because of the injury and what happened. Then Tip went on and scored 3 points to make it 19 points apiece. And then the goal for Clodagh McIntyre. Look, controversy or not, that was an incredible finish. Like, she soloed a long way and then blasted it into the top corner. And have to give Dennis Kelly a lot of credit for this. He actually brought Clodagh McIntyre off in the last 10 minutes or so in normal time, but then brought Clodagh back on in extra time, and she got the game-changing moment with the goal. And then Tipperary obviously pushed on the second half and got the 3 points, and then it was 122 to 119. But that moment, I suppose, with the goal from Caoimhe Kerr-Borta, in that instance, Seamus, I thought initially the goal should have stood. It should have stood. Look, you have to play advantage there, but in fairness, in some way, like, the ref did blow his whistle and the penalty was given. So it's harsh on Kilkenny, who had a 73% shot accuracy, much like the men. Absolutely brilliant in shooting stakes today. And Tipperary had 58%. Tipperary weren't honest in terms of favourites tags, but in terms of getting over the line, I think Anna Geary mentioned this earlier on as well, or was Ursula Jacob, one of the two on the analysis team, mentioned that Tipperary were favourites going to the last few years, probably the team that haven't broken the glass ceiling. It loses to Waterford in the semi-final. It loses to Galway in the semi-final last year, not winning out a big, big game against a side with that is steeped in tradition. I know Kilkenny have lost a lot of players, like Julianne Malone wasn't there today. Denise Gall is abroad. Grace Walsh retired. Miriam Walsh retired. That's huge losses for Kilkenny, but they're still a big side, as they proved today, like Aoife Prendergast, Laura Murphy getting some huge scores, as well as Katie Power, who was brilliant at full forward, I have to say. But Tipperary got over the line. Without performing particularly well, they got over the line and still won this game. Still, they got 39 shots, which I'm sure will impress Dennis Kelly to in a way, but still to only convert 23. That's pretty poor in fairness, and they have to improve in the semi-final against Galway, I would imagine, as well. So look, it was a good win for Tipperary. Not pleasing, I'd imagine, from the management team in terms of the performance. But from a Kilkenny point of view, they should be proud of their efforts with the players that left the panel to push Tipperary all the way that they did. And if the referee awards something different there in that situation for the penalty goal / thing, then it could have been a different story. But look, throwing it back into our Karen Kennedy, obviously Casey Hennessy as well with 3 points, Grazer Bryan with a point near the sideline in extra time as well. Those sorts of players stood up, and that's what will impress Dennis Kelly in this quarterfinal.
No, it certainly will. Either way, look, this is a huge win for Tipperary. They're beating a county that has All-Ireland in spades over the last decade. You're looking as well, players like Grace O'Brien with 9 points, Casey Hennessy with 3, Claudia McIntyre obviously got the goal, Emma Heffernan, Mary Burke, Roisin Howard. That's all 6 forwards that were listed for Tipperary in the starting team, all on the score sheet. To get over the line here is massive. They now face Galway, as you were mentioning, in that All-Ireland semi-final. What an opportunity this is for this current Tipperary team to make it to an All-Ireland final. I actually personally think that they're going to do it. I think their trajectory is going up. I don't think Galway are going up right now. I think they're kind of stalling a little bit, and I feel like Tipperary might be able to beat them this year. They beat them in the league final there in 2023. They were unfortunate to miss out then in the semi-final to Waterford and to Galway the last few years, but I think the hurt that they have from that, I think they're going to get to the final this year. Do you?
I actually disagree, Seamus. I think Galway will still win the game, because the thing is, I know Galway have lost a lot of players in terms of, I don't think Sarah Dervin's around this year, and I don't think Niamh Kilkenny's around this year. I think Carl Murray did mention that they've lost a lot of players from last season. But what Galway do have, when an up-and-coming team comes up against them, they still find a way to win. As shown in the group stage against Waterford, a lot of people would have fancied that Waterford team, including myself, to go on and win that game in Athenry at the Kenny Park. But Galway still have these players like the Niamh Mallons, like the Carrie Dolans. It might be only a couple, maybe even Ailish O'Reilly to an extent. But these players always turn up when Galway need them most. And I'm not sure is that the case from a Tipperary point of view, with the likes of like Grace O'Brien performed well today, but needs to perform the next day as well. Jean Kelly's a brilliant sub come on for Tipperary, as shown today by scoring 3 points. Karen Kennedy, all them, they need to perform to an upward level against this Galway team to have any chance of overcoming them, because I think they'll admit themselves they didn't perform to their utmost best last year in the semi-final, and Galway took them. And even in the final last year, Galway were very, very good against Cork and Croke Park. They were just very, very unlucky to come up with Cropper in the end. But I do feel like Galway have more experienced campaigners at this stage of the season than Tipperary do, and I think that might push them over the line.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. We'll see who's right in a couple of weeks' time. Moving then to the next Camogie quarter final, Waterford 220, Clare 210 at Croke Park. A very, very impressive win for Waterford. Niamh Rocket hits 111 to, pardon the pun, rocket Waterford into the All-Ireland semi-finals. This is a very impressive win for the Daisha.
Yeah, huge win, to be fair. And Clare did compete well in the first half. I didn't expect it to be that tight at half time. Like, obviously, I was outside the ground, obviously, around the streets of Dublin at this point. I was looking, just checking the score on Scorpio or whatever, and I was seeing Clare were ahead through 2 goals from Anya O'Loughlin in the first half, and I was like, are we going to get a shock here? Flipping it. Clare are really, really challenging Waterford here, but ultimately Annie Fitzgerald's goal just before half-time was kind of the killer blow for Clare. They didn't really recover after that, and then obviously Niamh Rocket 1 goal and 11 points. Absolutely superb displays from her as well, and she's really stood up from a Waterford point of view as well, and she was actually previewing the All-Ireland Final on my podcast, obviously the Gaelic Games podcast last year, and I must say, exactly, yeah. But I have to say, like, she's an excellent player and all, but like as a pundit as well as in terms of reading the game, she's absolutely excellent as well. So look, if jack of all trades, if anything. But to score 111 in an All-Ireland quarter final in Croke Park, you have to give her a lot of credit for that. 1-5 from play as well. Abby Flynn stood up, Beck Carton, Lorraine Perret as well. And I think I got the sense from Lorraine Bray when she went down with Anne-Marie Hayes and Aoife Sheehan on RT afterwards. It was kind of the case that Waterford kind of, I know they got to the All-Ireland Final against Cork, but they want to break kind of that glass ceiling. They want to get a few huge wins. I think that was Waterford's first win in Croke Park. It's senior level for a while, if ever. So look, that was big for them. It was a huge win for them. Obviously, they would have been going in as favourites against Clare, but especially after the first half display when Anya O'Loughlin was striking those goals in, you were thinking, do Waterford have the bottle here? To be fair, the likes of Rocket, the likes of Fitzgerald, the likes of Bray and Beck Carton at stages 2 performed well for Waterford, and they got over the line in the end.
Yeah, that's a massive win for them because they have had some bad days in Croke Park. The All-Ireland Final against Cork was one of them. The difference is, I think, if you look at that All-Ireland Final against Cork, a couple of years ago, they were very reliant on Beth Carton that year. Very, very reliant. And when she wasn't entirely on it on the final, Waterford were struggling then for threats for Cork that day. I was mentioning there, yes, Niamh Rocket hit 111, and that's obviously their main score getter, but Beth Carton still provided, Annie Fitzgerald still provided. They have other threats there as well, like Mairead O'Brien, players like Lorraine Bray, captain for midfield. I think they're a more well-rounded team this time than they were 2 years ago. Beth Carton was just absolutely setting the world alight there 2 years ago, but she's still doing her thing in a very, very strong Waterford side now. Going into that All-Ireland semi-final against Cork, how do you see it this time? Because Cork are obviously favourites in that game. I, to be honest, think no one can stop them in Camogie as well. I don't think anyone can stop them in hurling, but I don't think anyone can stop them in Camogie too. I don't think anyone can stop Cork in Camogie, to be honest, but you would look to Waterford to being a team that could give them a good game. Can they beat them? Because we have seen huge shocks this year across the codes in Gaelic games. We saw Kildare beat Armagh away in the athletic grounds in the LGFA. We saw Dublin beat Limerick in the All-Ireland Hurling Quarter Final. We have seen huge shocks, but if Cork aren't to win the All-Ireland in Camogie this year, I would be shocked by that.
Yeah, I would be as well, to be fair. And Waterford have performed well, and you mentioned their key traits in Niamh Rocket, Annie Fitzgerald, Beck Carton, Lorraine Bray, but the reality is, unfortunately for Waterford, Cork have way, way more. Like, you look at Amy O'Connor, Katrina Mackey, they might not be the most, Katrina Mackey in particular might not be the most glamorous player, but she's still scoring like 1-2 a game, which is still impressive, to be fair, and it's not really thought about. Clodagh Finn, absolutely brilliant, same, fine for Cork in many ways this year. I know she did well for UCC in the Ashburn Cup, but really, really good player. Even Aisling Thompson's really chipping in from a Cork point of view as well. Kate Wall is chipping in as well. Like, you have these players all over the pitch for Cork. Saoirse McCartan. You have these players all over the pitch for Cork, and I'm worrying from a Waterford point of view how they're going to be tasked with marking these players, because if you fully mark Amy O'Connor, then Clodagh Finn's going to shine. If Clodagh Finn's marked as well, then you have Katrina Mackey chipping in. Then you have Saoirse McCarthy chipping in. Like, it's going to be a difficult day, I think, from a Waterford point of view. I think genuinely it would be a success for Waterford to get within 5 points of them. I think anyway. It's going to be very, very difficult for them. But of course they're capable of causing a shock, Waterford. Like, they have the players. But I think Cork have way more threats. And that will be the key thing in deciding the semi-final.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Waterford have the players to bloody up Cork's nose a bit. They have the players to make them sweat. Beck Carton, Niamh Rocket, as I mentioned, hitting 111. Like, she's capable of doing damage against this Cork team. But just think down the other end, Cork have way too many threats for Waterford to deal with. So I still will make Cork favourites for that. And then Galway going up against Tip. As I mentioned, I'm shading it to Tip and you're shading it to Galway. So we could have a repeat final last year or a new final. Cork and Tipperary in the Camogie, as well as the hurling, we could have that, or Waterford could upset the whole thing. We'll see how it goes. Talking about the other Camogie results this weekend, we had Wexford beating Derry 4-21 to 9 points in the relegation playoffs. So Derry are officially relegated from senior. Quite a hammer blow for Derry Camogie there. The Intermediate Camogie Championship quarterfinals, then Offaly 3-16, Carlow 2-9, Down 2-13, Meath 10 points. And in the relegation playoff from Intermediate, Westmeath hammered Kildare 3-21 to 9 points. So Kildare are down to Prem Junior. And then moving to Prem Juniors round 5, we had Armagh losing to Laois 5-11 to 20 points. Wicklow hammered Louth 7-15 to 1-2, and Roscommon hammered Tyrone 120 to 2-6. Again, a lot of one-sided games there in the Prem Junior Camogie Championship, which isn't really great to see. But for the counties who got on the right side of those results, it is fantastic to see. Anyway, that is the Camogie wrapped up. So that's the hurling wrapped up and the Camogie wrapped up. We're going to move then. We still have the All-Ireland LGFA Quarter Finals and the All-Ireland Minor Football Final between Kerry and Tyrone to cover. We're going to move next to Parnell Park. Dublin 3-15, Cork 7 points. A very, very impressive win by the Dubs here. Goals from Hannah Tyrrell in the first half, from Sinead Goldrick and from Kate Sullivan, who ultimately picked up player of the match. See the Dubs home in a very, very impressive victory here.
Yeah, it was devastating in so many ways, and it was disappointing from a Cork point of view to take this kind of result in many ways. But to be fair, like the management team and Joe Carroll himself, the manager of the side, actually have said all throughout the year, really, this is a work in progress. This is genuinely a new team with Cork. Like, you look at the amount of players that have retired or gone abroad, there's a lot of them, and it is a young team. Like, you look at like Cork only had 3 scores, and then Laura Manny and Barbara Callan joining Katie Cork, but other than them three, like the majority of the team either just came back in this year with Anya Terry O'Sullivan or genuine youngsters. And it is a difficult time for Cork LGFA at this present moment in time. Hopefully next year we'll see the fruits of what Joe is doing and his management team in terms of next year and their development, but it was a difficult day at the office. As for Dublin, you look at their scores there. Hannah Tyrrell 1-5, Kate Sullivan 1-3, Sinead Goldrick even chipped in with a goal. Niamh Heatherton, she got more joy than her brother in this 2 points. In Parnell Park, in this one, Nicole Owens 2 points, Chloe Darby, Hannah McGuinness and Laura Grendon also scoring. So look, it was a good day at the office for Dublin. They'll face Galway in the semi-final now. Quietly confident, I would say, even though Galway are the serious winning streak themselves. So look, I think Dublin would be happy with the results, but tougher tests to come for them.
Yeah, I think, look, it was that third quarter where Dublin did the damage. So Hannah Tyrrell's goal in the first half from a penalty, that was the standout score in the first half. Dubs led 1-6 to 4 points at half time. Cork hit the first 2 scores of the second half, but then it was that spell in the third quarter where Dublin hit 8 points in a row to move the gap from 1-6 to 6 points to 1-14 to 6 points. And from that point on, the game was done, and Cork were put in a position where they needed to chase the game. And then came the 2 goals at the death from Sinead Goldrick and player of the match, Kate Sullivan. And I want to give a word to Kate Sullivan because she has been in tremendous form this season. I mean, her form in the league was really, really good. Her form with Sylvester's as well in the club championship, they pushed Crokes all the way in that Dublin final, and Kate Sullivan was their leading light in that final, in my opinion. In Waterford, she saved their bacon with that last minute point, like literally on the hooler to save a draw for us away to Waterford. And then she got a hat-trick against Leitrim in the round 2 game, and now she stars hitting 1-3 and getting player of the match against Cork and Parnell Park. I mean, if we're talking shoe-ins for all-stars, I mean, Kate Sullivan has to be right there.
Absolutely, yeah. In terms of scoring for play as well, because you can rely on Hannah Tyrrell in terms of the frees, and you can rely on other players out the field, the likes of Sinead Goldrick, to inspire confidence in Dublin, but you needed kind of a new player to step up, especially with Cara Rowe being in and out of the team more so. So Kate Sullivan has definitely taken up the mantle. Like 1-3 from play yesterday is absolutely superb, and a lot of scores from play throughout the championship, not just obviously in club level as well and in the league. So look, she's done brilliant this season. Deserves a lot of credit for performances in the Dublin shirt as well. So look, you have a new star in your hands, and yeah, I don't think anybody in the country would actually like to see that, another kind of exciting new Dublin player in the block. But look, Kate Sullivan's had a tremendous year.
And the thing is as well, she's bided her time, because that Dublin forward line was pretty much locked down over the last 2 years with Carla Rowe in there, with Hannah Tyrrell in there, with Niamh Heatherton in there. It was very hard to get consistent game time. Kate Sullivan has absolutely seized the opportunity this year. She's been absolutely exceptional. And with the forward line and the form that it's in right now, the way we're racking up goals, look, Galway is going to be a massive test in that semi-final. Galway are the team that knocked us out last season. They came to Parnell Park and they beat us. But it's going to be an almighty test, that game against Galway. If we can get over the line, you'd be brave to ride us off in that final. That's all I'll say. We'll move then to the next game, which is our next opponents. Galway continue to win. Galway 118, Waterford 112. The winning streak for Galway continues They see off Waterford in Tuam Stadium. Galway 118, Waterford 112. How many wins in a row is that now for Galway?
I've counted, so it's 8 games in the league, 3 games in Connacht, I think Leeds for Mayo and Mayo again, then 2 in the group stage and in the quarterfinals. So that's 14 games.
14 games in a row they've won this year. That is absolutely absurd.
It's unreal. It really is. But then again, most people might question they played Division 2 this year. And we're probably, other than Cork, to be fair, we're probably ahead of, well, I don't know, probably about it. They were ahead of everybody so clearly. But look, if you still have to play what's in front of you, and to win 14 games in succession is a really, really good achievement from Galway so far this year. And that breeds a winning habit, which is a good sign for them. Kate Slevin with 1-6, Olivia Dively 4 points. And every time we talk about the LGFA, and a lot of people online say about LGFA players, they talk about when she was playing Louise Ní Bhurthaigh, Hannah Tyrrell, Katie Cork for Cork, Amy Mackin. Not many people are talking about Olivia Dively, how good she is, not just in inter-county level, but club level for Kilkenny and Clare. Absolutely superb. 4 points again yesterday for play, and apparently she got player of the match as well. Ava Noon got 2 points, Alpha Dafford 2 points, Roisin Leonard 2 points as well, and Leanne Conan, Niamh Dively. And what is impressive as well from Galway, look at the scores. Kate Sliven's got three frees yesterday, Roisin Leonard got 0. But we've seen so many games down through the weeks that Roisin Leonard usually pops over the frees for Galway, and it's Kate Slevin this time. So that is a positive for them. And it was the tightest quarter final over the weekend. So you have to give a lot of credit to Waterford for the way they battled back in this game. When signs didn't look good for them, Lauren McGregor in particular, 1-7, 1-5 for play from what I was reading. That's absolutely superb. Breed McMaugh, 4 points. Chloe Fennell also got a point on the board. Look, I think Tomas McAteer has to take a lot of positives from a Waterford point of view in terms of the way they have developed and the new, well, not new, like, but new kind of key players that have stepped onto the fray, because Kellyanne Hogan actually went down to AFLW in the middle of the season, and that could have derailed Waterford's chances. But you have Lauren McGregor there, you have Breed McMaugh, you have Chloe Fennell, you have some brilliant players in that Waterford team, Emma Murray as well, Kate Murray. Like, you do have a lot of good players for Waterford, and they got so close in so many games throughout the whole season. The frustrating thing from a Waterford point of view is they couldn't get over the line those games, and I'm sure they will try to do that next season. That would be a main aim for them. But to finish third in Division 1, to come so close to Kerry and Munster, and to fight back the way they did in this Galway game, I think it's a positive year in some cases, but I'm sure that they will be disappointed not to reach the semi-final.
No, they'll be even more determined to kick on next year and turn those potential victories into victories. And then recapping this game, Galway 118, Waterford 112. That's 14 wins in a row for Galway now. Absolutely absurd run of form. It's been unbelievable from Galway this year, beating Waterford then in Pearse Stadium in Tuam. Unbelievable result for them. Yeah, I mean, look at this game. It was the start for Galway, which did most of the damage for Waterford. They hit 1-4 before Waterford got off the score sheet. And the reality is, from that point on, they were set to kick on. Waterford were always chasing the game. Even though in the second half, Waterford got the goal from Lauren McGregor, it was always going to be a little bit too much to ask to fully reel Galway in. And 5-6 points was as close as they got to Galway. Galway march on to a semi-final against Dublin. And who would dare write them off for the All-Ireland as well? We'll move then to the All-Ireland LGFA Quarter Final. Kerry 3-12, Kildare 11 points in Austin Stack Park in Tralee. I felt for Kildare a bit because their reward for going away and beating Armagh in the athletic grounds was now they had to go away to Austin Stack Park in Tralee and beat the All-Ireland champions. That was always going to be a massive test. But Kildare started superbly. They got the first 4 points. Prizeman was to the fore for them, as she always is. And then Síofra O'Shea got the first of what would turn out to be her hat-trick. She got another goal in the first half. Kerry went in at halftime ahead. Then Síofra O'Shea completed her hat-trick in the second half, as Kerry's defence really came to the fore in the second period as well, because they held Kildare's supremely talented attack to just 4 points in the second half. For Kildare, it's been an amazing year, beating Armagh, the standout result so far, in my opinion, of the LGFA season. But unfortunately, going away to Kerry and beating them with the form that they're in was just too tall an order.
Yeah, it was, and it was a difficult day for Kildare when you look at the progress they have made. And just to come up with Crupper in this game will be disappointing. But at the same time, you have to say Kildare have had a really, really positive year. Staying up in Division 1, getting to the All-Ireland Quarter Final in senior, that is a brilliant achievement, you have to say. And they have found new players. Like, I know Grace Clifford left the panel this year for personal reasons, but you had players stepping up, not just Roisin Byrne. She got a point, to be fair to her, in this game, but you have Prizeman stepping up from a Kildare point of view. And as
Leisha
well as
Lennon
that,
as well. She did
Leisha Lennon
amazing
at
as well.
fullback, absolutely superb as well. And as well as that, Nasa Dooley as well, leaving the panel as well from AFLW. That's another problem. We talk about that with so many teams. That is a problem that's kind of rearing its end really with LGFA this year, which is a shame. But the point is, Nasa Dooley left during the mid-season. Grace Clifford left the panel as well. And to still stay up in Division 1 and to come as close as they did in some games as well, to beat Dublin in the Little League as well. That's a really, really good achievement. And to go away to Armagh to win that game. Look, it's been a brilliant year for Kildare. And you have to give a lot of credit to Kildare for that, and Pat O'Sullivan, the manager, as well. So look, it's been a good year for Kildare. But as for Kerry, look, it's business as usual. Síofra O'Shea with 3-2, Daniel O'Leary 4 points. Maybe a disappointment thing for Mark Burke and Kerry, maybe, is the two of them scoring so heavily for them, and then the rest of the team only getting a point each. I don't know, would that be good?
Could that be something that holds them back in the All-Ireland?
Possibly so.
Like, you look at Galway spread of scores, like Galway have players like Roisin Leonard coming off the bench and everything like that, and can contribute in 2 points. They've such a wide spread of scores, Galway. Are Kerry a little bit too reliant on O'Leary and O'Shea?
Possibly. And with Niver Hurtig gone as well. I know I mentioned on Pod Down in the last few weeks that they have been stepping up these players like Rachel Dwyer and Niamh Ní Chróir, but the reality was, like, Rachel Dwyer, Niamh Ní Chróir, Carmody only got a point. Queeve Evans, who's been touted as one of a good youngster in Kerry LGFA circles, only got a point as well. I would see that as a worry for Kerry going down the line, especially with Daniel O'Leary scoring as much as she did with 4 points, Síofra getting a hat-trick as well as that. So look, I think it is a concern for Kerry moving into the semi. But then again, I think Kerry will get to the All-Ireland Final, considering who they're playing as a semi-final. More on that later. But look, it's job done for Kerry, and we'll see what happens later in the year from a Kerry point of view.
Yeah, look, I think you have to be nothing but impressed by the form of Síofra O'Shea, by the form of Danielle O'Leary. And I think when you have players like that, it can often be a catch-22. The same thing will get levelled at Dublin a lot with regards to Carla Rowe and Hannah Tyrrell, that it was, Carla Rowe and Hannah Tyrrell score everything. It's like, well, they're the two best forwards that you've got. So obviously you want to put the ball in their hands as much as you can. And I do think that Kerry have alternate threats. Like Rachel Dwyer got a fantastic goal against Cork. We've seen that. Niamh Ní Chróir is always capable of popping up with key scores as well. Off the bench as well, they're fairly strong players like Katie Brosnan can come in and make an impact. Niamh Carmody is always good for a few points as well. But the obvious threats are Síofra O'Shea and Danielle O'Leary. They're the obvious ones that Meath need to stop. And when you look at players returning into the Meath panel like Shauna Ennis, like, who's over the last decade, she's one of the best defenders that we've seen. And Mary Kate Lynch is still there in fantastic form. Meath do have the defenders to be able to put it up to Danielle O'Leary, to be able to put it up to Síofra O'Shea. And that could be something that changes the game a bit, because Kerry have been able to overwhelm every defence that they've come up against so far with just goals. Like, they put 5 past Cork, they put 3 past Kildare. They've been the difference makers in their games. I feel like Meath are very, very tight at the back, which you'll move on to. Like, they've really held Tipperary for long spells. I know Kerry's attack is stronger, but when you saw Meath's defence, it looked like Tipperary had no idea how to even attempt to get through Meath's defence. So that could provide a very difficult challenge for Kerry, but time will tell. Moving on to that Meath quarter final. Meath 2-17, Tipperary 1-6. This was today at Páirc Táilteann. This was a tour de force by Meath. They were just miles ahead of Tipperary in this one. This was very much a controlled win. Like, there was never any indication that Tipperary were going to win, even though Ashton Maloney, Anna Rose Kennedy still led the way, as they have done throughout the year. Maloney got the goal in the second half for Tip. Meath did damage early in this game. Vicky Wall and Niamh Gallagly both got their goals early in the first half, put themselves in a very dominant position that they never, ever, ever gave up. And for me, look, you got serious players back in the team now. You got Shauna Ennis back in. Vicky Wall's been back in for the year and she's looked fantastic. You'd be a brave man to write Meath off with their pedigree. I mean, this is a team that won back-to-back All-Irelands. The majority of them are back in the team now. Monica McGurk even came in to play in goal for the final few minutes of the game. You'd be a brave man to write them off.
Exactly, yeah. I suppose a bit of a start as well. Meath are their first All-Ireland Semi Finals since 2022, and they've reached in 2021. Yeah, exactly. I'd be corrected on this, James. I think it's Meath's third ever appearance in an All-Ireland Senior LGFA Semi Final. I think.
Cool. So, it definitely is since they switched up the grades and went senior, intermediate, junior.
And the last 2 games they won the All-Ireland both occasions. So, if the omens are correct, Meath are going to win the All-Irelands. I'm upping the confidence.
Oh yeah, I'm delighted about that. Because we're on the other side of the draw. So that could be 2021 all over again.
Exactly, yeah. But look, and then again, Kerry and Dublin were in the semi-final. And actually, Kerry, they beat Kerry and Dublin in 2 of those finals as well. And all they have to get through now, Kerry, potentially Dublin. It's written in the stars, Seamus. It's written in the stars that they're going to do. But look, looking at serious matters and looking at today's game, look, it was a brilliant performance by me. They put it away really, really early. Vicky Wall, as you mentioned there, Niamh Gallagher as well. Ciara Smith with 3 points for play. Not been talked about really as a main player, but I saw the league against Mayo in a game that was shown on TG Carroll and Bank Holiday Monday, and I thought she was superb. Emma Duggan as well in around the team. Kerry Cole got 2 points as well. Another brilliant score for play in particular. Barry Faraday, another kind of an upper player on this Meath team. You look at Dora, Evie Cleary, Sean Ennis all getting the score sheet as well. That's positives for me. And as you mentioned there with Monica McGurk coming onto the pitch, Robin Murray is still a very good goalkeeper. But still to have that kind of aura in Monica McGurk coming onto the pitch, it can be a positive for Meath moving on down the line as well. But from a Tipperary point of view, look, Ashley Maloney only got 1-1 today. And as soon as that happens, you're like, this isn't your day. Simple as from a Tipperary point of view. Look, they've had a good year, reached the All-Ireland Semi Finals, finished 3rd in Division 2. Decent enough year for Tipperary in fairness. But look, Meath were just a better team. They moved into the Kerry game with a lot of confidence in a way, quietly confident. Because a lot of people will fancy that Kerry team to get over the line. But I don't know, a bit of luck on their side. Meath could sneak it, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, no, and we will see. A good pal Liam Moyer says, can we also just appreciate how mean it was to have Tip ladies, footballers play at the same time as the men's semi-final and when the Camogie was on before it. I agree, probably poor scheduling of this fixture. I mean, every single one of those Tipperary players probably would have wanted to go up to Croke Park to catch the Camogie and the hurling. I mean, surely it would have been possible to play, it on the Saturday, especially if you had, games. I know with the scheduling and everything like that, but when you see certain games that were on the Saturday, like Galway, the
thing is, Seamus, like it was so avoidable because Galway and Waterford could have been on the Sunday because they had no other teams playing on that day.
Well, Galway and Waterford was Waterford and Clare was in the Camogie on Saturday,
that's the thing, yeah. At the exact same time.
Yeah.
Who makes up these scheduling?
Would have worked better for Galway and Waterford to be on the Sunday. Look, unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too shocked, unfortunately. We'll move then to the relegation semi-finals from the senior. And I'll pair these two together and say, who do you think are going to go down? So the teams that are safe, Armagh are safe. They beat Donegal 15 points to 5 in Stewartstown. And Mayo are also safe. They beat Leitrim 2-13 to 13 points in Kilkenny Park, leaving Donegal versus Leitrim as the relegation final. I think you can't look past how Leitrim have just absolutely leaked goals. Like Dublin scored 8, Waterford scored, I think, 5. And now Mayo have got 2 more. I know Donegal haven't been the most heavy scoring, but Donegal have been competitive in most of the games that they played, whereas Leitrim have got swept out the gate. I think Donegal will stay up. What do you think?
The thing is, though, Donegal don't score much at all. That's the thing with them. Look, it was good for Armagh and good for Mayo to stay up, even though for Mayo, Liam McHale actually left his post as Mayo LGFA manager, probably the right call, given the way Mayo have probably fallen down in fairness. But look, Mayo and Armagh, albeit they'll be happy to stay up, given the situation that they were in. But looking at Donegal in terms of their goal game, they got none obviously against Armagh, 1 against Tipperary, 1-2 against Galway in the group stage. I mean, that's not really good enough. 7 points against Armagh, he goes to final. 8 points, 10 points, 6 points against Galway in the league. 1-7 against Roscommon. Roscommon were the intermediate relegation semi final for context. 1-7 against Monaghan. Looking now, 9 points against Westmeath, only drew that game. 7 points against Clare. They have not done well in this year at all, Donegal. They haven't surpassed 10 points usually in games. Whereas Leitrim scoring 13 points. I know the league goals, but let's be honest, Waterford and Dublin are away.
The forwards are still scoring. Like Leah Fox actually played pretty well this year.
Yeah. But what I will say, Leitrim, they were playing Waterford and Dublin, who, let's be honest, James, call a spade. 2 of them sides are an upward trajectory in terms of LGFA and senior.
They're 2 of the top teams in the country.
Exactly, alongside Galway and Kerry.
Yeah.
So I'm like, potentially Armagh.
And Meath.
Yeah, and Meath. Yeah. we'll add some more teams now, but look, the point is Leitrim are scoring more than Donegal, and yes, Leitrim's defence is leaky, but other than Suzanne White, I just can't see any of them Donegal forwards scoring a blistering amount of scores. So I think there could be a shock here. I think Leitrim could stay up and Donegal could go down.
It's not bizarre to think, because Leitrim have shown that they're still capable of scoring. It's just whether or not they can shore up the defence a little bit. Because yes, Donegal haven't scored too much, but they have been playing against teams that do have decent defences. Like Tipperary, like Galway aren't going to concede anything. And then it could have just been a bad day at the office against Tip. You don't know. I'll shade it to Donegal and we'll see who gets it wrong. Well, then this is the final game of the pod to cover the All-Ireland Minor Football Final of 2025, which was shown today on TG Car. And your good man right here was at the game. I was covering the socials for TG Car today. So if you see anything on the stories, they were my humble self. But the treble is still on for Tyrone. Tyrone won 16, Kerry won 15 at St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge. My God. The treble is still on for Tyrone. Tyrone won 16.
That stage, Seamus.
What?
It's that stage.
Oh, it's that stage. Oh, it is that stage. The treble is still on for Tyrone. Tyrone won 16, Kerry won 15 at St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge. A dramatic finish to this game. Tyrone get over the line by a point. A debatable call. Should Kerry have got a penalty right at the end? A lot of people felt like they should have, but the referee did not give the penalty. Tyrone deserve massive credit for how they battled back into the game, because Kerry, after their goal in the first half, they were very, very much in a dominant position. Then Tyrone took over around the middle, going down into the final quarter, and they battled and just clawed their way to victory. Incredible victory for Tyrone. Kerry do deserve to feel pretty hard done by, in my opinion, for that call on the penalty. I've seen softer penalties given, but I've also seen, worse decisions the other way. So I can understand both sides. I can understand the side that's not for a penalty, and I can understand the side that is for a penalty. But for Tyrone, what an achievement. All-Ireland minor champions, All-Ireland under-20 champions. Imagine they cap it off with a senior All-Ireland. That would be sensational.
It'd be unreal. I think the first team to do it, if they do it, in 50 years. Since Kerry in
1975.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be an exceptional achievement if they do that. And yeah, to win under 20 in minor, it's going to be brilliant for the county of Tyrone. But just a warning to Tyrone fans, Cork did the exact same in 2019. Look where we are in senior level. So it doesn't really, you have to get the structures right, just bottom line really. But look, it was a brilliant win for Tyrone. I have watched these two teams in the flesh before today. Obviously I didn't watch today because of other games going on, but I did watch Tyrone against Cork and Kerry against Cork, and I thought Kerry would win the game, and I thought they'd win the game because I thought they'd much more technical footballers than Tyrone. And Tyrone were big about strength in terms of, like, Peter Colton. I mentioned it to Liam during the week on my pod. He's 17 years of age. Compared to us two, Seamus, I'd say he'll batter us in anything. This guy, Peter Coles, and he's a big unit, like so,
Yeah, he's a
and
big guy for 17.
yeah, exactly. Like if that's him at 17, what's he going to look like at senior level?
Yeah.
Like it's going to
Toronto
be.
produced a few of those lads. I remember the biggest one was Michael McLean. I remember seeing him at under 20, and I remember being like, "What the like?" You fella looked like Johnny Walker in the UFC. Like the light heavyweight. I was like, "Oh my god, this fella's a beast." He just couldn't get game time for the Tyrone seniors, but they have a habit of producing these lads, especially around the middle. Their midfielder, Gormley, I think. He was the number 8. He was a tank. I remember being like, oh my god, this fella's huge. And it's crazy to think that those lads are 17. And Tyrone were just really, really good though, because there were numerous moments where you thought Kerry might do it. Like they got a couple of 2-pointers in the second half. Kevin Griffin made an amazing catch as well. You know the type of catch where you're thinking Kerry are going to win this now. Like a massive catch at a huge stage. But Tyrone, like Peter himself, stood up to take that penalty, buried it under immense pressure, also took a free to level the game, and then Tyrone managed to come down the other end and fire over the winner. And also their impact off the bench, Tyrone, was absolutely huge. I mean, coming in, I have it listed here. It was Diarmuid Martin who started. He actually got the winner. Matthew Daly, who wore number 18, he got a point. He came off the bench. He was fantastic. He won a couple of huge kickouts. That was the period where Tyrone were boxing Kerry in, turning over a lot of times, putting them under pressure, and ultimately getting the scores that got the win for them. But in this game, I think they were deserving winners, just about. Like you could argue both sides, neither side deserved to lose. I was saying, because I was in the media box for this game, and I was saying to people around me, I was like, this has extra time written all over it. Like and I really believed it would go there. I thought that the referee was going to give a free in to Kerry maybe at the end, so that it would go to extra time, and it would be a little bit of a cop-out almost, but he just didn't give anything. And then the full-time whistle is blown straight after, and it leads to kind of a weird full-time whistle, because you can hear the Kerry fans being like unhappy with the decision, and you can hear the elation from the Tyrone fans. But you cannot dispute how good that Tyrone minor team is. They are sensational. They're deserving All-Ireland champions.
Exactly. And one more thing as well. Diarmuid Martin, who got 3 points today, and you mentioned he was very, very good at corner forward. He actually replaced on starting team Joel Kerr, who actually West Ham didn't allow him to play in this game. And he scored a lot. I think he scored 214 in this minor football championship campaign up until now. So to find a replacement, that would have been tricky. But in fairness to Diarmuid Martin, he stepped up big time, 3 points in fairness to him. But this Tyrone team, they are very good. They're very, very bulky in fairness. They do have a lot of potential in that team as well. So yeah, future looks very, very bright for Tyrone and for Kerry as well. Like Kevin Griffin, I've watched him up close. Garrett White as well, actually second year in minor as well. Like those guys are very, very good from a Kerry point of view. Ben Kelleher as well. Like these guys have potential. Alex Toohey as well. He was very impressive at the Cork game, I remember. Was he? Yeah, he seems like a very good player in and around. I know he plays wing forward on the match rate program, but he's in around the middle usually.
He was wing forward, but he was kind of like a Brian Howard type. He was a wing forward, but he was the target for a lot of kickouts. Kevin Griffin dropped in for a lot of kickouts as well for Kerry. Look, even though Kerry lost this final, it was the type of game where you play that game 10 times, Kerry win it 5 times, Tyrone win it 5 times. They were so evenly matched. They basically went score for score the entire game. Kerry just didn't get the breaks going down the home stretch. Tyrone found a way to get over the line in what was a sensational performance by them. People like Peter Colton stood up. People like Diarmuid Martin stood up for them. But for Kerry, players like Alex Toohey, players like Kevin Griffin, like these guys have a hell of a future ahead of them. They definitely will have a place there on the Kerry senior team in years to come. And for Tyrone, as if they didn't need more talent coming through, they have more talent coming through. Under 20 All-Ireland champions, minor All-Ireland champions, as Gavin said there. I think the rest of us need to take notes. Whatever's in the water there for Tyrone over the last 10 years, they're producing sensational under 20 teams, sensational minor teams. And if you're a Tyrone fan, long may it continue. And we could see a hell of a senior team coming over the next few years. Gavin here says, I saw the Tyrone Miners up in Cavan against Roscommon in the semi-final, and they're massive. Even in the same fixture at under 20 last year, the Miners were almost the same size as the Tyrone under 20s, to be honest. Yeah, Tyrone are going well. There's no question about it. And congratulations to Tyrone. What an achievement. You only get one crack at it, and Tyrone are the All-Ireland Minor Champions for 2025. Amazing achievement. Massive congratulations to all involved. A massive congratulations to Joel Kerr as well on his move to West Ham. Unbelievable achievement for such a young lad. All the best to him. One more comment here from Gavin. He says, yeah, in fairness, Kerry, they're not beating Toronto under 20 or minors, but they're always there or thereabouts at semis or finals. Talent is there too. Absolutely. Páirc Lennon says, will Cork be compared to Mayo if they do lose the All-Ireland again? Matthew, I'll throw that to you. Will we open that can of worms before the pot ends? No. We're very close to delusional time here. I don't think they would be, because I think you have to. Mayo lost, I think, what was it? Since they won it in 19, but it was the period. So they lost it, and obviously in 89 to Cork, but it was the period where they lost in 96, then they lost in 97, then they lost in 04, then they lost in 06, then they lost in 2012. Then 2013, then the semi-final in 2015, then the final in 2016, then the final in 2017, then the final in 2020, then the semi-final in 2019, then 2021 they lost to Tyrone. Like, that's what, 9 finals in a row. You can't put Cork in the same box as them. Cork, if they lose the final, that will be 3 finals in a row that Cork have lost.
Or I think it's actually 4, yeah.
Yeah, 2013, 2021.
Actually 5.
Oh,
6.
Oh, 6, yeah. You're not far off them, man.
We'll move to the next pod.
But yeah, that is the pod finished. And I want to give a big thanks to Peter Griffin. You know, nice to read lovely comments here. Peter says, great show, lads. A lot covered, fair play. Well, I want to say a massive thank you to Páirc Lennon, to Brian O'Riordan, to Peter Griffin, to Sean O'Malley, to the Faithful Podcast, aka Liam White, to David Carroll, to Gavin O'Reilly, to Denise, to Porter Porter, to A2, to Scooby, to Stockroom Tim, to John Doherty, to Kevin Cotter, and to Christopher Conlon. Anybody who commented, anybody who threw in anything, Top Class Shows in, thank you very much, my good friend. Anything who was thrown in, anyone who threw a comment in, thank you so much. You helped to make the show really enjoyable. We will be back here next Sunday, 8 p.m. As always, we're getting delusional now, so we'll wrap up the show. But thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. It was another good one. We'll be back here next Sunday. Until then, enjoy the week and take care.